All aboard! Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, baseball fans of all ages, I am Beast Mikey. Now ride with my train of thought. It's time for the latest installment of the Baseball Power Rankings. Let's not waste any more time and get to business. And Tuesday is going to be the day from here on when it comes to this. A lot of series tend to stop on Monday, so I think it's a good way to go into the next series, pretty much, with a Power Rankings fresh off the presses. Let's get right into it with the Eurostar Zombie Tier. New York Mets, some series wins. Yes, believe it or not, the Mets do get some series wins. They have looked okay in some games. Their pitching has looked relatively solid most days. The offense, yikes, but I think we all understood when they got rid of Alonso, let him walk anyway, and then they traded Brandon Nimmo. You figure their offense would take steps back, and they're basically taking leaps back. It has not been great, not to mention Francisco Lindor's injury and the injury now to Luis Robert, who's actually having a respectable start to his tenure as a Met. It's not been great. Poor Nolan McLean. He's probably going to be the Mets representative for the All-Star game and get booed out of the Citizens Bank Park, and it's going to be pretty rough because this offense is terrible. LA Angels, Soriano and Trout. You have a potential Cy Young candidate in Soriano. You have Mike Trout back on the business that he normally tends to be on when he's healthy. You have an offense that's actually pretty good. But aside from Soriano, this pitching, yikes, it is still brutal. The fact that you actually lost the series to the Mets, I don't recommend it. Not great. The Angels have been pretty brutal for the most part. It is, it's rough. It's rough out here for Angels fans. And you could probably get a really good return in any deal for Soriano or Trout, or for that matter, Adele or Soler, who are helping Trout with an offense that's legitimately good. Unfortunately, the pitching is legitimately awful, saying Soriano, like I mentioned. Colorado, back to normal. Remember when the Rockies weren't in this tier, and I was joking around with the whole Miss Met thing, and Dinger, and then the whole Daniel Rossini, Mike Vrabel thing. Those were good times, right, for the Rockies? Yep, now we're back to normal. The good news is for Colorado is this. Hunter Goodman, Mickey Moniak is developing. There are at least some decent bats in this lineup. None of them are Chris Bryant, but there are at least decent bats in this lineup. The pitching is not decent, not at all, and that's not great, and obviously that's where the Rockies' optimism tends to end, because pitchers and pitching careers tend to go to die when it comes to being a Rocky. Not great. Still, the Rockies are going to be terrible, it seems, and it feels like it's not much is going to result from this Rockies team. San Francisco, fire sale looming. They've already traded Patrick Bailey to the Guardians, and it feels like everything else not nailed down is in play. From Rafi Devers to a lot of their other bigger named prized acquisitions, or even just normal acquisitions, if you will. Maybe not Logan Webb, but it feels like everybody else is in play to get dealt, and it could be a fire sale going on in San Francisco. The reasoning is simple. Even with an offense on paper that looks good, it just isn't performing. They just aren't scoring. They're one of the few offenses in the league that are on par and or worse than the Mets. You don't want to have an offense worse than the Mets. There's just nothing here that's going to scare anybody in their lineup. And maybe part of that's because of their ballpark being absurdly big, but it's just not happening when it comes to the Giants. They don't have that all-time slugger that you need to terrify people, especially with that right field porch out at Oracle Park. It's just not happening. What do you do, though, if you're the Giants? Do you just blow it up and try to start fresh and start brand new? Or do you try to keep everything and keep it together? And what kind of offer could you get for Logan Webb if you tried? Houston. Yeah, makes sense. The Astros continue to mash, no question. They have an MVP candidate, Yordan Alvarez, no question. The problem is this pitching staff is just horribly bad. I don't understand how the Astros pitching, well, aside from Hunter Brown being injured, could regress this horribly and regress this ineffectively. When, again, your team leader in ERA and Burrows has an ERA that's New Orleans' area code, and for those who don't know it, it's 504. It's not great, despite his name being great. His first name is Mike, which is always a great name. I recommend it. Anyway, the Astros pitching staff is just been brutal, and maybe this is a gap year for Hunter Brown. I think that's what I'll chalk this up to for him, and for maybe a lesser extent Lance McCullers, who's actually healthy, but his ERA is a touchdown. You want touchdowns for the Texans, not the Astros, and it's just not happening for a Houston team that I thought would actually get back to the playoffs, but it turns out they are further away from them than I would have ever imagined them to be. Very disappointing. Boston swept the Tigers? Believe it or not, yes, they did. Red Sox fans have not had to crash out for the last few days. They swept the Tigers, and part of this may be Framber Valdez getting completely owned by said Tigers. That totally happened. It was not a getting owned by said Red Sox. It totally happened and caused him to crash out, which was not great for him. Still, this is a very weird development for an offense that can't seem to score, and their pitching staff is so-so, except for Rangers Suarez, who tends to handle his. He'll be facing his whole team in the Phillies on Thursday. That should be a fun game and an interesting series between two teams who seem to have problems scoring, but pitching-wise, it's not awful. Except for when the Phillies hit home runs. Phillies good at that. And Minnesota, Brooks, Buxton, Bradley. Those three Bs are doing their thing and doing their thing nicely. Taj Bradley on the mound, handling his. Brooks Lee is doing his thing at the top of the lineup or near the top of the lineup for Minnesota. Byron Buxton is obviously handling his. And as much as other teams are pining to get Buxton, Minnesota seems incredibly stubborn to trade him. Unfortunately for Minnesota, it just doesn't feel like much else is happening aside from these three guys. And that's why their Twins are where they are in the standings. Still, they're in arguably the weakest division in baseball, so Minnesota's going to have a fighting chance in the playoffs if they can get any sort of help from everyone else. That's where Minnesota is right now. We're going to take the UK Pacer towards the Monkeys Paw tier next. Baltimore, Beltway battle. The good news is they did beat the Yankees once, so at least there's that. That's always good. But there is a Beltway battle upcoming after this series that the Orioles are going to have with the Yankees. So naturally, Yankee fans will flood Baltimore. And then you get the showdown between the Nats and the Orioles when it comes to who runs the Beltway in baseball. It makes sense here for Baltimore. For the Orioles' sake, at least aside from this, I would say it's been a decent showing over the last week or so. They had a 4-gamer with the A's. They split. They had a 3-game series with the Marlins, lost 2 out of 3. So it's been a so-so time, and then obviously beat the Yankees yesterday. So we'll see what Baltimore can do. I would expect them to get smashed by the Yankees over the next 2 nights, but I guess we'll see. And then maybe the reprieve of their ops to the south, and then Tampa Bay. Said ops to the south? Washington. Wizards win lottery. Yes, this is the biggest win that anybody outside of the Commanders in the 2024 season has had in Washington for a very long time. I will salute them for this. I will salute the Wizards for getting lucky and John Wall being there for the lottery win. Oh, for the Nationals on the field, it's the same old story here. CJ Abrams has been excellent. James Wood's been outstanding. They cannot pitch. And the Nationals will continue to do what they do, which is they have a nice young hitting core, but this pitching staff is downright awful. This is from the bullpen to the starting rotation. It's awful all the way around. Maybe the 5-for-1 for Mackenzie Gore is not working as well. But I would trust the Nationals to get some sort of ace at some sort of point sometime. You would think, right? Miami, stealing your bases. This is the best base stealing team in baseball. Say that 3 times fast. But the Miami Marlins are very good at this. And they are also respectable when it comes to their lineup and respectable when it comes to some of their pitching. Still need to see Yuri Perez get right, and somehow he still isn't. But I trust that he will be able to eventually. I would also trust Cal Stowers to get somewhat right at the plate. But with Hicks, and especially with Lopez, who's number 2 in baseball in batting average, Otto Lopez is at 344 currently, they at least have a hitting core and a hitting nucleus that can do some damage. I just want to see this pitching staff get a little bit better, especially Perez and somewhat of this bullpen. They got 2 or 3 good starters, but after that, it gets a little hectic. Will the Marlins be buyers? Will they be sellers? Will they stand pat at the deadline upon getting there? I guess we'll see. They were kind of sellers and still had a good second half, in part because of Cal Stowers. Toronto, Leafs win lottery. Congrats to the Maple Leafs. They win the NHL version of the lottery, which means several things. One, obviously, Gavin McKenna should be theirs. Two, they owe the next 2 picks to the Flyers and the Bruins. The 27 pick likely to the Flyers, the 28 pick to Boston, but they have to decide that. They haven't made that choice yet. And 3, will Austin Matthews be a Leaf for next season? And what does Toronto even do? Do they try to rebuild? Do they try to win now with McKenna, Nylander, and potentially Matthews and Matt Nyes? What do they do? I guess that's a huge question, and I guess we'll get some real answers towards the draft night and or July 1st when free agency begins in the NHL. And you're probably wondering, okay, that's nice about the Maple Leafs, but you're not here for that. You're here for the Blue Jays. What about the team to the north in baseball? Well, Toronto faced the Rays, and they're facing them in this series, a critical kind of sort of statement situation. And this is a statement week, to be honest, when it comes to the Blue Jays. They got the Rays for 3, and then they got the Tigers for 3, and then the Yankees for 4. So these 10 games, can Toronto go 5-5 or 6-4 amongst these 10? That's going to be the real question for the Blue Jays if they want to get themselves directly back into the AL East race. Philadelphia, good Elmo momentum. For those of you living under a rock or away from your phones or social media or didn't see this, and it'd be kind of hard not to, Elmo paid a visit to the Phillies broadcast booth last week when the Phillies played the Rockies. And Elmo professed his love for the Phillies, his distaste for Rocco was kind of wild, and his request for some home runs by the Phillies. Tom McCarthy would correct him in saying that he wanted to see Phillies home runs. And Alec Baum said say less, and he promptly hit one. And then Elmo also wanted to see some Schwarber bombs. Kyle Schwarber basically now can't be stopped and continues to hit them. He is now tied for the Major League lead in home runs. The Phillies are a top 10 team in hitting bombs as a unit. Bryce Harper having a very good season as well, not mentioned, though he homered the following day. It was a very good week for the Phillies, who have continued to get right since the firing of Rob Thompson. And now they go to Boston, which would be a very interesting challenge between 2 teams that have respectable pitching. And, well, at least as of late, the Phillies' April pitching was not great, but the Phillies' pitching as of late has been actually very good. So that'll be a good test to see the Phillies and what they can do against a staff that is also high-billed to be good pitchers. And does this mean that Alec Baum has been saved? Because since the 2 days off that he took, Baum has actually been pretty good in terms of hitting baseballs, not just for home runs, but in general. And also, the Major League leader in batting average is on this team. It's not Trey Turner, who won a batting title last year. It's actually Brandon Marsh, who's batting 5th in this lineup. And I guess the question is simple. Can this keep going? Can this team remain this consistently good on offense, meanwhile regaining its form that we expected them to have as pitchers? Can they continue to do that? I would think so. Christopher Sanchez might be the National League's best pitcher this season. That's including Paul Skeens. I did not stutter. Kansas City, getting quality starts. Though the Phillies led this stat last year, and for a lot of the season had the game's best rotation, that argument can be made for the Royals, who have the number 1 ranking in terms of quality starts this season. Good on you, Kansas City. Bobby Witt Jr. is hitting as he should. He is hitting for very good average. The power is not quite there, but I trust it will be there in the summertime especially, and Kansas City will look like a pretty decent team. Like the Phillies, the Royals have also gotten hot, winning 7 of their last 10. And I guess, again, they're in a very weak division. Can Kansas City make hay in an AL Central that is not overly strong, regardless of who's leading it, as of this moment in time? And Texas, offense still struggles. Yes, this bullpen is awesome. Yes, the pitching staff, though not as good as last year so far, has been pretty decent. But this offense, even with Brandon Nimmo having an all-star caliber year, is somehow not that productive. I kind of expected a little bit more power, honestly, from Seager and the rest of the offense. Not necessarily Nimmo, but Nimmo will still probably give you 25 homers. I kind of expected a little bit more power, but surprisingly, it's just not happening. And that's disappointing. Still, if the Rangers have a 4-2 lineup, 4-2 lead, and you're in the 7th inning, I trust this team to hold it down and close it down with the way their pen has been overall this season. They can pitch. They can absolutely pitch, regardless of pen or starters. I just need an offense to get a little bit better. If so, they can make a dent in the American League West and or American League playoffs in general. Let's now get to the California Zephyr and playoff tier. Seattle, rally drought continues. So the guy who arguably should have won AL MVP last year in Cal Raleigh, who had 60 bombs and was ridiculous, suddenly can't seem to hit a beach ball. He's now 0 for his last 28. His average is like 170 something, 173 last I saw, and he's not hitting the home runs that we expected him to. This is alarming considering what Seattle kind of banked on this season, for Raleigh to continue to do what he does, for Julio Rodriguez and company to handle theirs, and for the Mariners to make another deep postseason run. Now, the pitching is doing its part. The pitching is holding up its end of the bargain. I'm just shocked that the offense isn't. Can Seattle get back on track, and can Raleigh start hitting again? This was probably going to be a relatively big story until Raleigh gets out of his funk. Arizona, disappointingly below average. That's kind of where they tend to rank for the most part in almost everything as a team. When it comes to their offensive stats, they're below average, very much so, and towards the bottom of the league in terms of run production and home runs and things like that. But they have a very good hitting infield. Like, pretty much everyone in their, like, all their bases can hit. Marte Arenado's having a very good year. Like, they're hitting in their infield, and especially Corbin Carroll, who's, well, Corbin Carroll. They did just trade Alec Thomas to the Dodgers, and they're going to get an outfield prospect. They did that earlier today. He was actually DFA'd on Friday, so okay, cool. They got something for him. I'm just a little disappointed. I thought Arizona would take a minor step forward. Not quite in the playoffs, but not too far away from them to the point of, okay, they were fighting like they did last year towards the end of the season. Maybe they just need that one super bopper in their lineup and or one super ace to be the frontline man of the staff. Because it feels like they have the ability to make a jump and make a move, and yet somehow they have just not done that. They have these blips where it's like, oh, this team can do that. This team is like that. And then they just don't move. It's disappointing. Chicago White Sox lost to Angels? Yeah, believe it or not, they lost the series to the LA Angels of Anaheim, or just Anaheim Angels. Whether Rats were involved in this series, I don't know. But what I do know is that Chicago has held it relatively stable recently, of course. And what I mean by this, they did face the Mariners and at least won that series to kind of wipe the stench of losing to the Angels off, because you don't want to do that. You don't want to lose a series to the Angels. No one wants that. Anyway, they got a big series coming up with Kansas City before a Chi-Town, crosstown showdown with the Cubs. At least they host it on their ballpark, though I'm sure there'll be plenty of Cubs fans who will make the trip. I'm much looking forward to showdown series such as this. It's going to be fun. Anyway, Murakami has a very good claim to Rookie of the Year as of this moment in time. He has led a pretty good White Sox offense to something that we haven't seen in years. Good, productive, efficient offense. Good. The pitching needs to be a little bit better, but I like what I'm seeing from Chicago. Keep it going if you can. Pittsburgh, pitching as advertised. Okay, yes, Paul Skeens is a mortal this year as opposed to having an ERA that is microscopic. But the Pirates pitching is tremendous. They have a three-man show when it comes to their rotation where if for some reason they got in the playoffs, they could actually get busy against anybody because this rotation is that serious. We're talking about Ashcroft, Keller, and of course Skeens. The three of them are handling theirs, and they can make things very miserable for a lot of offenses. Speaking of which, the Pirates offense is holding up relatively strong. Sure, you get your adventures by O'Neal Cruz. Okay, fine. But I do like what I'm seeing when it comes to this Pirates team. They are not going away, and that's a good sign. Even though the fielding percentage, like I said, Cruz being a major part of this, is still relatively low. It's bottom 10 in baseball. You obviously don't want that. I do think Pittsburgh can keep this together, and can keep it together for a good amount of this season, if not all of it. I guess the question is simple. Can O'Neal Cruz improve his fielding? If so, then he will continue to be incredibly electrifying and very productive. Cincinnati, home run reliant. That is the big concern for the Reds. They are very good at hitting bombs. That's not to be disputed here. They can hit home runs. Unfortunately for them, that's where a lot of their RBIs come from. It comes from the long ball. It comes from the power game. I do think the Reds, who are fourth in the league in home runs, by the way, I do think the Reds have a real shot in a lot of their games because this offense is that nice. I am concerned for the pitching. The pitching is not great. It's towards the bottom in baseball with the ERA, and it just overall hasn't been as productive. Fortunately for them, they're in the mosh pit known as the Central, not named the Cubs, where at least they're in wild card contention, at least to get back to the postseason. That pitching's going to have to improve, though. And it's going to have to improve immediately to get back there. Cleveland, Ohio battle looms. Yeah, this weekend, as I mentioned with the crosstown showdown with Chicago, there's going to be a battle between Cleveland and Cincinnati for who the best team in Ohio is. And maybe they should do this in Columbus. Whether they nuke Ohio State University, that's up to them. Anyway, when it comes to the Guardians, the pitching is respectable, the offense somewhat respectable. They have actually usurped the White Sox for the lead in the American League Central as of this moment in time because they've been okay. Nothing spectacular, nothing awesome, but they've been okay. And they've certainly been much better when it comes to their pitching than Chicago. Always a good thing. They're playing the Angels right now, so in theory, in this what could be a trap series, if you will, they should do fine. Will they? They did win yesterday. They're playing right now and they're scoreless. The game literally just started, so we'll see what Cleveland can do going forward in this series before they play the Reds. Sacramento, looking as advertised. The offense is doing the good offensive things. The pitching, however, not really, because we kind of expected this. Sure, the Phillies did beat them in the annual Battle of Philadelphia's teams past and present, but they did get their pound of flesh in the third game as they destroyed Andrew Painter and basically beat him with the elephant tusks. It was not great. Shane Langoliers is continuing to handle his, and it's becoming an absolute monster as an offensive catcher, and it's looking like arguably the best one in baseball at this moment in time. I do like what I'm seeing from the offense in general because, yeah, this offense is like that, and that was why I thought they could actually make the playoffs this year. The pitching certainly has seen better days, and certainly needs to see better days to, I think, make said playoffs. But as of now, it's not terrible. And it's a good sign from an A's team that probably needed to take a step forward before they become the Las Vegas A's in due time. That stadium is looking real nice, though. I will give them that, despite the fact that I don't like how Jeff Fisher basically snaked the entire Bay Area. Speaking of which, a Bay Area series is coming, though. They're going to play the Giants this weekend. I'm much looking forward to that. They got the Cardinals first, which I think is going to be a very intriguing series. I'll get to that a little bit more later. And Detroit. Surprisingly bad fielding. No, they're not the worst in baseball at fielding. That's a national. That's a national job. The Nats are the worst when it comes to fielding percentage and making errors, so the defense is still bad. However, they are not good, and they are seventh from the bottom when it comes to making the errors and also with the fielding percentage. So not great on that realm. And sure, there's no Scooble, understood, we get it. But the Tigers are still holding it together relatively strong, except for crash outs by Framber Valdez. That's a little concerning. Their pitching is fine. In terms of the ERA, it's top 12 in baseball, which is still good. The offense is actually not awful, but Detroit still, they're 13th in that realm in terms of average. It's not awful, but obviously could be a little bit better. Still, they're in probably the best division in baseball to be kind of average because nobody's really distinguished themselves in the AL Central. The power game isn't as great as it could be, but still, they're in a pretty good spot, and it feels like a mosh pit in the AL Central. If they can hold it together until Scooble gets back, I think they're going to be in real good shape. And now we're going to get to the VSOE title tier. LA Dodgers, second place team. Yeah, surprisingly, believe it or not, that's where the Dodgers lay right now. The offense is elite. The pitching is great, yet somehow it's not been great lately. They've actually been pretty rough. They got a statement beatdown, kind of, sort of, from the Braves, which is not great, and I don't recommend that. And they lost the series to the Cardinals as well. Also not great. I don't necessarily recommend that. They got a rivalry series, a rivalry week, if you will, weekend plus change coming up with the Giants for 3 more days, and then the Angels, and then the Padres. It's a very good rivalry sequence of events for this Dodger team. In theory, they're going to get back on track. We would expect it to. Mookie Betts just got back from his IL stint. Can they get back on track? And how fast will they do so? Because let's face it, if they didn't, I think we would all be stunned. St. Louis, passing test. I just mentioned what the Cardinals did against the Dodgers, where they won 2 out of 3. Very impressive. They went bar for bar with the Padres, who they split with. They probably should have won the Sunday game and won 3 out of 4, but they did not. Okay, fine, that happens. However, they did face the Brewers and they split there too. It's another good test. This Cardinals team is looking like a respectable unit. I like what I'm seeing from St. Louis. They are currently still third in what's a really good National League Central. So it's going to be a street fight for pretty much the entirety of this season. Can anyone distinguish themselves aside from the Cubs? And even with Chicago there, maybe not even they can distinguish themselves from the rest. Good on the kids in St. Louis for using their baby devil magic. San Diego, interesting road trip. The Padres, as I just mentioned with the Cardinals, had a very interesting and entertaining series with them. They split the 4 games and now have a very intriguing road trip on their horizon as they lead the National League West, believe it or not. They go face a team I haven't mentioned yet, and then they go see Seattle before the aforementioned Dodgers series and Sacramento coming back into town. But the Padres thus far have held it together. They've held it together with Mason Miller being an absolute monster, and then an offense that could leave some more to be desired. They could certainly stand to hit baseballs more and Tatis over fences. But they have actually held it together respectably, in part because Xander Bogaerts is relatively carrying a lot of it. All the things that you would need for offense in terms of the average, the home runs, the RBIs, the on-base percentage, the hits. Xander Bogaerts is leading all of that for their respective team. Not great. He's not leading in ABs like Jackson Morrell. Fernando Tatis, is he ever going to hit a home run again? And what do the parlays and bets look like for Tatis hitting a home run at some point in time? Well, what does that look like right now? Anyway, the Padres are holding it together in part because, especially Bogaerts, there's some Manny Machado in there, and even an occasional Nick Castellanos home run. And his tying home run really saved the Padres on Sunday. Can the Padres keep it together? I would expect them to. Milwaukee, a statement sweep. They just swept a team that I have not mentioned yet. So you know it's a good sweep. The key to this? Of course, it's their pitching. Mizorowski has been the headliner here, and he's had a very good start to his season, though the record does not reflect it. Their offense is doing its part too, though. They are hitting relatively well. They are scoring a good amount of runs. That's always good. A key thing here for this team has been the long ball on both counts. And this is as practice as you preach as you could possibly get in baseball. The good news is, the Brewers are the best team in Major League Baseball in disallowing home runs. They, as a team, have only allowed 30 of them. Here's the bad news. They're also the worst at hitting them, and they've only hit 26. So it is as practice as you preach as you can get. Yet, despite all this, the Brewers are the proof that small ball wins out when you could actually get it. And they are absolutely getting it. Well done by Milwaukee in that row. Improve the power game, obviously, and then there's not much that can stop you. One team that could not, the team they just swept, the Yankees, beating bad teams. So here's the problem with the Yankees right now. They're very good, at least record-wise. They have a lot of talent, and Aaron Judge doesn't seem all that keen in giving up the AL MVP award. Only one of their wins gets a team over 500. So yeah, that's not great for the Yankees. They beat up on a lot of bad teams, which you're supposed to do if you're really good. There's nothing really terrible about the Yankees, honestly. They're very good at pretty much everything thus far. The offense is doing its part. The pitching, even without Garrett Cole, doing its part. Aaron Judge seems to be allergic to giving up the AL MVP, or maybe he's a kleptomaniac when it comes to that trophy, I guess. The point of it is that the Yankees aren't doing anything terribly except the part where they only have one win over a team that's over 500. That's the big concern here. That's the big alarm here. In theory, the Yankees are going to right this. And yes, I had the same concerns about a team I haven't mentioned yet, and that team proved they were worthy of the test. I would think with the Yankees' talent and their abilities so far and their production so far, they're going to be able to get this right. Will they, though? I guess we'll see. They're not leading their division. That's because the Tampa Bay Rays are. Rays stinging everywhere. That is where Tampa Bay is relatively good at. This is really about their offense. The Rays' offense is ridiculously good. They're fourth in average. They're generally very good at almost everything. Tampa Bay is, and that's a really good look. Except for the home runs. For some reason, they're not great at home runs. Why do I say they're stinging everywhere? Well, to be honest, this offense is very productive, and you're getting good production from everyone almost. Well, really a main core four. You have Simpson, for example. Happy birthday to Homer. Chandler Simpson is actually the team leader in their batting average and the team leader in their hits. Okay, but who's hitting the home runs? Well, Junior Caminero is doing that. He's got 11 of those. But is he the team leader in their RBIs? Well, he's not. That's actually Jonathan Aranda doing that. Okay, fine, that happens. Who's the on-base leader for them? Well, that's Yonder Diaz who's doing that. So it's a cavalcade of, and you could say even armada, if you will, of guys who are just doing their parts and handling their business. And Simpson, for a good measure, was also leading in stolen bases. And somehow Cedric Mullins is not a zombie when it comes to baseball. He's actually having a respectable year once he gets on base. The problem is he's got to get on base. The batting average is still below 200. You don't want that. Anyway, Tampa Bay getting their offense from all sides and all corners. And they're pitching because Martinez, my goodness, is he cooking. And Rasmussen is back and healthy. He doing his thing. So the Rays are getting it from everyone. And that's a beautiful thing to see, despite their eyesore of a ballpark. But at least they're trying to get that fixed. At least there's that. Tampa Bay is going to be a real player here. The Yankees are going to have to go through them at some point. I'm looking forward to their matchups. Chicago Cubs, a losing streak? Yeah, they had to lose sometime, right? They weren't going to just win 130 straight games or something as they go into the playoffs. They weren't going to do that, so they had to get some L's in there. They got 2 of them in Texas, which was not great, and the runs were not there at different points in that series. Also not great. Still, the Cubs playing tremendously well, and similar to the Rays, it's kind of a mix of everybody. They're hitting well, and it's everyone hitting. They are very, very clutch. Any game that's close in the 9th innings, Chicago has had a tremendous ability to make that ground up and make it up quick. They have shown themselves to be a tremendous team when it comes to the late game heroics. Although their offense is not as diversified as Tampa Bay's, because Nico Horner and Ian Happ are really doing the damage, at least headlining the team in the damage. They're still getting good production from PCA and Alex Bregman. Also, Dansby Swanson and Mike Bush doing their things. Mike Bush not as productive with the home runs as we expected, but he's at least doing some things productively. Shohei Imanaga also doing his thing as well. He's been cooking on the mound. So this Cubs team is answering all questions and crushing most challengers before them at a very good rate. And they're answering the challenge and the question that I had going into the last couple weeks were about, okay, they beat up on at the time, bad Phillies team and a very bad Mets team. Are they legit? Turns out they are. They're going to have a really daunting challenge that they're going to have to deal with as they make their way to Atlanta. Olsen MVP watch. Thus far, it feels like he has been the best player in the National League. I get it. Shohei Ohtani is going to have a lot of the praise and a lot of the really acclaim. Sure, I get it. But we have to talk about what Matt Olson's currently doing. He is amongst the league leaders in home runs. He's amongst the league leaders in RBIs. By the way, Kyle Schwarber just hit another Schwarber bomb because, again, he cannot be stopped. You thought I was kidding. Kyle Schwarber can't be stopped. But anyway, this ain't about Schwarber. This is about what is currently happening when it comes to the Braves and how Matt Olson has been outstanding when it comes to producing home runs, when it comes to producing RBIs. He has been tremendous this season at both. He's league leader in RBIs, the major league leader in RBIs, I should say, and is top 5 in homers. He's now 4th, undisputedly. The point is about the Braves, they are ridiculous. Ozzie Albies is amongst league leaders, the major league leaders in hits. It's ridiculous. They have legitimately 2 Cy Young candidates in the building, and this is Spencer Strider just getting back. Like, that's how dominant Atlanta has been. They have crushed most challenges before them. They just had a statement series against the Dodgers when they won 2 of 3. And like I mentioned, they're going to be playing the Cubs coming up. So it is a really daunting start for everybody else. They feel like they're back to the 2023 Braves. The question is simple. Can the Braves, who look like the 2023 version revisited and remixed, look like and finish with the 2021 caliber results? Or will they run into their kryptonite in the form of the Phillies? Now, I get it. The Phillies have lost 5 of 6 to Atlanta this year, but as we saw, it hasn't mattered when it comes to season series. When the Phillies and Braves have played recently in the playoffs, the Phillies have slaughtered them. Can the Braves avoid this kind of fate, whether it's from the Phillies or Dodgers or anyone else in the playoffs? And there you have it. That is this week's Power Rankings. Coming up again next Tuesday, we'll get another installment of them. a lot of tests are going to have to be passed by several teams this week. I'm much looking forward to it. Like I said, Cubs Braves is a really good series to pay attention to this week, especially. That's probably your signature series going into the weekend where it's rivalry week. And your greatest geographical op, in most cases, are going to be your next opponent. From Beltway to the New York battle, Chicago, Ohio, Missouri, Texas, Florida, you get all of them. Pennsylvania, the right side superior, the eastern side superior to the western side. But we ain't talking about that right now. What we're talking about is rivalry week coming up this weekend. That'll be fun to pay attention to and pay attention to watch. I will obviously be talking about that on next Tuesday's Power Rankings. So the Zombie Tier will be the first stop of my next train of thought. But before I go, I also should give condolences to a couple of teams and mention entitled here. Former Yankees legendary broadcaster John Sterling passed away 8 days ago. He was 87 years old. He called 5,651 games in his legendary career, and he also called 5,060 straight. And this streak ran from September 1989 through July of 2019. He actually retired in 2024, so he got the beginnings of one final World Series run also to his mantle. So naturally, he saw the legendary careers of Jeter and Rivera and Pettit and Posada and the dynasty run that was in the late 90s, early 2000s, plus the 09 title, the two stadiums, everything. He saw a legendary performances, countless ones from the Yankees as they rose from the doldrums to the dynasty that a lot of people hated. And the Yankees, I think, are doing a really nice thing, as they tend to do when it comes to their guys who have passed away. They're going to have their patches of Sterling and pinstripes of the broadcast microphone, which I think is super dope. The patch is really cool. I'll share it here. And he's going to be honored that way. So I love that for the Yankees to honor a legendary broadcaster that they've had. Unfortunately for them, they aren't the only team that lost legends. One away from baseball and one that is synonymous with Atlanta Braves baseball. First, we're talking Ted Turner, who, without him, do the Braves really exist? Because Ted Turner was a true game changer and pioneer for not just Atlanta, but for baseball in general. He actually started owning them in 1976, and eventually, soon after that, was able to get TBS going, and obviously CNN soon after the ownership of the Braves began. And he was not necessarily hands-on here when it came to them by the time they got to the peak of their powers, which were the 90s Braves and all those World Series runs and the title he got in 95. But they were able to do things that were visionary, if you will, not just with TBS, but Bill Lucas. It was the first ever black general manager in baseball. It's kind of appropriate that Atlanta has those throwbacks that kind of pay homage to the old school Braves, those latter 70s, 80s, the Hank Aaron days, like those types of Braves uniforms. It's kind of ironic that they have those this year and that they're dropping them, and that Ted Turner, unfortunately, passed away. And naturally, he was the guy who owned WCW, obviously competing with WWF/E later on, and was part of the reason why TBS became, and TNT became, the signature networks that they were, as well as CNN. Ted Turner was 87 years old. But unfortunately, the tragic things with the Braves did not stop at Ted Turner. It was also Bobby Cox who passed away last week. And it's just an unfortunate thing. Bobby Cox being a legendary manager, as we know, he was 84 years old. And Cox finished fourth all time in terms of wins. He had 2,504 of them. The only people with more, Connie Mack, John McGraw, and Tony La Russa. Obviously, Cox was there for the 95 Braves championship, and also is known for his fiery temper. He had 158 ejections in the regular season. That is the most all time. Quite a thing. Cox was inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame in 2014, and the dominant run I think he's most known for, as well as I mentioned with Turner, the Braves, where they were known as America's team for a lot of people, maybe not Dallas Cowboy fans, but they were known as America's team because of all the coverage of TBS, and they were dominant during said run, where they ruled the 90s in baseball. And, well, aside from the Yankees. And they were 14 straight National League East championships. They became the villains of the National League, I would argue, for a lot of teams. And if you wanted to do anything during their run, you had to go through Atlanta. And that was very appropriate because of his style and all the Hall of Fame pitchers that he had, plus Chipper Jones, who's a Hall of Famer, and his legendary temper that carried the day. Andrew Jones, also a Hall of Famer, too. Got to mention Andrew Jones is going in this year. The point of it is Atlanta lost two pillars of their franchise. And if you wanted to say Mount Rushmore's in terms of importance in Atlanta, those two and Hank Aaron are probably three of your four choices that you're going to make. And you could argue about the fourth. So that's a unfortunate, somber ending to this week's Power Rankings. I will be back next Tuesday with more of them. So my condolences to the Braves and Yankees on three pillars of their respective franchises.